Now on tape 18 we're going to try to pick up the letter setting, pick up the decoration, I'll call it for lack of a better word. Actually the finishing up of all the details. On tape 17 we did all the letter setting. I tried to put all the little tips and tricks that might help you out on this. Did the checkerboards, did the gold, and we're still experimenting. We still haven't done the gold leaf lettering, of course, but some of the things we have found out that have just been better than what we ever anticipated. One of the things is that I think is just awesome is this bench, and anybody that has a dust problem in their house should really consider building and or using something like this. We were working, and I put a little clip on the front of this photo, on the front of this video. One of the things we did, we're working on George's big Tsunami, and you can look at just how tremendous the fuse sides are on this thing. Here's a real PM, here's the real stunt ships. And we're using electric sanders and everything on it, and it just, the dust is gone. The end of the night, it's a 2-minute job to clean up. So that's one of the good things that's come out of this little program. The other good thing that's come out of it is we've gotten half of this done. I've gotten a coat of clear on it on the last video, and today I'm going to try to get the other side, maybe some of the letter sets on the other parts, the rudder or whatever. So let's get busy. It's letter set time. Now what I want to try to do today is I'm kind of looking at one side of the fuselage here that has the letter sets already done, and I don't want to make mirror images. I don't want to try to mirror image this, but I want to get the same rough amount of lettering on there, because a real airplane wouldn't have an exact mirror image. Not that that's a factor, but I want to start, I guess I'll start at the nose and then work my way to the back, and I guess that's about the easiest way I'm going to do this. Again, a lot of this is redundant, and we did it on the tape before this, so we won't go crazy and spend a lot of footage, but some of the things to keep in mind, I'd like to get the eagle the same if I can. Some of the lettering up by the cockpit, anything that you can see from the top, I want to have relatively even. As I look down the fuse, I can see the striping is really pretty good. And then at the end of this day, assuming I get this all done in one day, oh, there's something back there. Assuming I can get this all done in one day, one of the things I'll do is get another coat of clear on the side. So without further ado, let's get the tape and letter sets out and let's do it. Now I just refilled the pens with ink. I assume they get it ready to write. I like to have all my stuff ready before I start a day of Christmas tree decoration, let's lack of a better word. I got a thick pen and a thin pen ready. I want to also get the Prep-Sol out, wipe all the areas that we're going to do down. I'll do that all off camera. You've seen that already. Any area that we're going to letter set, needless to say, a little bit of 1200 sandpaper, a little bit of Prep-Sol, clean it up nice. Keep your hands nice and clean. If you haven't seen the video before this, that's a good idea. Check that one out. And I'm going to start at the nose and try to work my way back with all of the things making similar amounts of letter set on both sides. Now another thing I can't emphasize enough is keep your hands clean. My hands get dirty just walking around this shop, but keeping them nice and clean is always step one. Otherwise you get a little smudges and then nothing ever sticks to where you've sanded and cleaned the area. Always get a couple of nice clean Q-tips. A little cap full of alcohol just in case we really have to, we have a major mistake here, and believe me, we have mistakes from time to time. Okay, the first thing I want to do, I'm going to kind of just duplicate this, the logo in here, the powered Super Tiger 60, LJ Super Tiger 60 powered. So I'll just try in this case just to make a mirror image. This side is done. Go over and make this side, wipe this with Prep-Sol real carefully, get it all nice. And get out the matching letter sets. Again, I keep all my old Tom Lay sheets. You never know when you're going to need them. And I always keep, biggest thing, all the letter sets in a box here, all the ink line things out, because we're going to be, again, this is like decorating a Christmas tree. From time to time, you just want to have Another I, another E, another AMA, another something. By the way, if you don't know, if you buy Tom Lay letter sets and your AMA number has, let's just say, your number is 33333, if you call Tom and you buy them, he'll give you the extra 3s, or obviously you could even get it from me. You can see how many extra ones I have. I'll try to help you out with that, either me or Tom. Now, as usual, getting the thing in a horizontal position, I'm trying to do this by just putting the nose against the table. And I'm working upside down, which is a little bit of a pain, but right now it just seems easier to do this part of it this way. Again, on this one, it just seems easiest to use a ballpoint pen, and they're releasing relatively nicely here. Again, these are Tom Lay letter sets, and they seem to work the best. Now, one of the things I still have to do here, and this is why I got the ink pens out of retirement here, I have to touch up some of the ink. After you go over this with clear, you'll see little spots that don't really sit just right. They're kind of like little fish eyes. So again, after the first coat of clear on anything, and I guess I've said this on a video before, after a coat of clear on anything, you really have to go back, and I'll do this with the template, and get the lines all nice and accurate at one time. Again, you know what I'm looking for here is no decals. I know decals have a place in a hobby, but I like the like the old-fashioned thing of no decals. Seen many real nice planes that just seem to be plastered full of decals, and I think the people that really are into this hobby, they can spot them right away. No decals. Again, it's an ongoing thing, just an ongoing touching up as you go. There's no such thing as you do it once and you're finished. This is an ongoing thing. And there's always little ink work that as you put the clear on, you'll see that it isn't really a solid black line. And I'll go back again over this. The template is a good idea. Go back over it. Again, this is kind of like a little copy of Walt Prey's little insignia that he has on the official Pro Stunt Cardinal. But you could come up with any idea, really. You can come up with the Steve DeGiulia Eagle, or the whatever replica, or whatever little thing, a dragon's head. I used the thing off a Peugeot car one time, that little doll, or whatever it is, a lion, I don't know, griffin. Again, a big word here is patience. This just takes time. Now I'm just going back over all the lines with the thicker pen, trying to touch up all the little spots here. Now what I found handy is I taped a little piece of styrofoam to my knee to keep this from slipping out of my lap. I don't know if you can use that technology. Let's see if we can get this on. This is what I did. And this helps hold the plane in position. I just put some masking tape around there. Kind of holds the plane in position while I'm sitting. Alright, we got one part done, and hopefully it has some kind of a match to the other side. See if you can see both of these guys. And I'm going to work out Next step, I'm going to clean this up and get ready to do some lettering up on the nose and just kind of work my way right to the back, mirror imaging back and forth. Just trying to make sure I have the first tape on straight before I start laying out the lettering. And that's real handy. This is that Bob Martin's black ruler. This is real handy for that operation. Now I'm trying to work in a vertical position here, just to see if this is going to be more comfortable. Remember, I'm starting from the emblem and working away. You don't want to start and work into it, as I said before, and run into the emblem if possible. Again, I'm lining up the tape with the little dotted lines. Now here's what happened. Good thing that happened. We got half of a letter that we don't want. These are really old. This set that I'm using is really old. Okay. Now, needless to say, as you get the letters closer and closer here, it gets to be a little bit of a problem folding the letter sets back, but not something you can't live with. Now also, at this point in time, the hell is my pen? Pens keep disappearing. I can see little spots up here as I get closer and closer that I need to touch up. I can always touch the black trim up, the tape line, just with a thin pen. Okay, so we have a pretty good mirror image of what's on the other side of this, the nose art here, and we're just going to finish the rest of the lettering here. This is just redundant stuff. It's just kind of like it's a patience thing of see if you can just be patient and just go over and over and over. It does take time. This is the only thing here. It takes time, but I think the results are worth it. been doing, I've been putting a piece of tape over the top to line up the end of the lettering so that the lettering blocks all kind of come out equal. And this just starts the lettering, so I get the lettering on both sides of the fuselage the same distance away. Now we're right back to the part where we have to clean and letter this area right here. Kind of get something that kind of matches the other side if we can. Got all the little guys on. Again, a light colored lettering on the red, dark color on the other colors. Kind of keeps it interesting to look at. Yeah, because when it's in, no, you know. Now I'm trying to find out which one of these sheets. It's really hard to tell. I had some nice gold leaf lettering here. Oh yeah, here we go. To kind of accent the rudder a little bit too, because this is always a pain in the neck working in this dimension. See, now these are kind of old. This is a problem. That's why I always say buy new letter sets, and now here I am using up this old crap. But this is par for the course. Now, if you pull one off like this, the next thing is get some alcohol. This is a good trick you can use. Make sure you get all the fingerprints off with a nice Q-tips. M600 is good. If you use alcohol, get it right off. Don't sit and look at it. It'll make the paint whitish. Give you that white milky look in the paint. Alright, let's see if they stick any better now. Okay, good. Now that's one thing nice about doing letter sets. Now supposing we didn't like the way this turned out, for instance, tape and pull it right off, move it up, down, change it to whatever, Midgley, whatever. It's nice about Letrosets, you can lay them all out and there's no real commitment really until you spray them with clear. Just want to get a coat of clear on everything, and that's it for today. Let this dry up. Okay, we'll come back to this tomorrow. That's about it for one day anyway. Enough is enough. Oh, I just love looking at this stuff. When it's all nice and dry, well, Letrosets are starting to shape up. Everything looks pretty decent. Yeah, it's even straight. Can you imagine that, Midgley? Straight. Anyway, today I'm going to spend very little time. In fact, I only have about an hour and a half. Do a little more of the Letrosetting that I had in mind. Try to get ready for, boy, I'm just looking at this. It's really coming out nice. Try to get ready any day now. We should get our stuff from Walt Prey and be ready to do the gold leaf, the Strega lettering and stuff. Just looking at this. There's a point in time with each plane, and I guess this is the time right now today. I don't know, it just starts to come together, and all of a sudden it's a real airplane, and today is the day. It really looks good. I'm really happy with the way this is coming out. When I originally started this, I had a vision in my mind from having watched these Reno Air Race videos, and I said, I want... I know everybody does that. And today it really starting to look like it's just coming together now. It's really starting to be a little baby. Nice baby. Nice airplane. Just look at all these Letrosets here. I'm just, when I left this yesterday, I just left it a mess here. God, we really do have about 300 sheets of Letroset here. This is ridiculous. Now, one of the things I want to do, I put the whole plane together. I put the flaps on, put the elevators on, put a little piece of tape on the rudder here. The whole idea here is I want to get the overall look of the plane, that overview, so I can start to plan out the final little bit of Letroset, the ink or whatever. Sometimes if you don't have the plane all put in one piece, you can be deceived into thinking it's either too busy, not busy enough, or whatever. This is a good way to do it. Put the whole plane together and then make your final decision. That's the easiest way I know of to do it. Now notice on this side I started at the front here and I'm working my way back so I end at the right spot, and I'm trying to keep the letters in some kind of alignment so one isn't a lot longer than the other one.
Chicago, where my music was all I had. I tried to be as good as I could, and sometimes it made me sad. Go back to Chicago.
Now here's another thing where you get two letters together. We could do two in one shot here. I'm lining up the letter behind it. You know, and every step of the way here, every step of the way, I'm standing back and trying to see, you know, just what the overall look is that I want. I don't want it to get to be so busy, but I don't want it to look like I've left anything out either. And this is just one of those things. Just going back and forth until you get it to where you're happy with it. Again, I want to just step back and see if I have the look I'm looking for. Now the whole idea, these are silver leaf letter sets. I want to have a chrome spinner, of course, and I want to accent. You see how the silver and gold pick up the light as it comes to the front of the plane, but I want to make sure it's balanced. It ends pretty much where I want it to. Yeah, this is kind of, well, you know, this is just what I'm looking for. See how that picks up the light? And maybe it'll even pick it up, you know, when the guys run around and do their appearance judging, who knows. These silver leaf letter sets just seem to be really nice. They really catch the light nice. These, of course, are the leftovers from the cardinal sin. See, and that's the whole thing too, is every plane, if you have the leftover letter sets, at some point in time you really have a whole lot to choose from. I'm trying to get this these last little few silver leaf letter sets on here. Some of these silver ones are just so old, you really just can't get them to stick down real nice, but trying to make the most of everything we have here. Come on. Man, what a pain. Now, of course, one of the choices you have here, if you do have a problem, which we're having a problem with these real old silver letter sets, get the basic alignment up here, and then take it off the plane. Take it right off the plane. Which is what I'm going to try to do right now, is just get an idea of just where this is. Further up, not so far up. On some symmetry here. Finding out on these real old letter sets too, I almost always have to use the ballpoint pen and be real careful not to put dents in the wood. It just makes it convenient that I can take this off the plane. Finish up the letter sets and then just put it back. Now I'm trying to get these, needless to say, so they're kind of symmetrical with the ones on the tail. Black letter sets on white, silver letter sets on red. Now Billy Warwich told me a funny story one time. He was doing it late at night and he had letter set at no steps on the bottom of the plane. Well, I guess we don't really need them on the bottom, but and the idea here, now I can make this a little easier because I don't have the flaps up on the plane. I can sneak right in there and get this hopefully symmetrical anyway. Well, I'll tell you, there's no doubt about it. Of all the letter sets I've used all day here, the Tom Lay ones are so nice to use. And those damn art supply ones, especially when they get old. What a horror. Now the reason I'm doing this with the flap attached to the plane, because I want to get the placement of the letters right about where I want for my mind's eye vision of what this should look like. I really like the way the gold looks against the red. That's one of the things that's been surprisingly nice. See, that's what's nice about letter set. You're not happy with the placement, you're not happy with the way it looks, lose it and start all over again. And this is what I like, you can just start all over again. Until you get that view, that mind's eye view that you have. Don't settle for anything. Don't be afraid to just pull it all up with tape and start all over again. Yeah, I kind of like that better. I didn't like the way it looked before. It was just too good. I don't want this taken away from the main lettering of Strega. I want this to be very subtle. You know, like when an artist signs his work, he doesn't sign it with 4-inch letters, that's for sure. Still not happy? Just pick it all up. I just want a very subtle look here. I don't want something gaudy. That's why I'm doing this over and over again. And it's a lesson here. Don't be afraid to do it over and over again. It's not a problem. Now I know Kazzy signs his plane with a pen. I could, I'm getting so sick of doing these letter sets. Maybe I should consider doing that, but I thought this would be nice if I just put a little signature down in the corner. Little logo or whatever you call. And I'm real fussy about how I want this to look. I want this to be a very subtle little thing here. I didn't like the way the capitals look. It was too big. I had to tell you, this is really turning out to be a time-consuming part of the job. Nobody will even notice this either. I hope Debbie notices it and says, Wendy, that's just so nice the way you signed your plane on the wingtip. That's so nice. Debbie, I did this just for you and Karen. Oh, I just heard the horn. My wife just came in the yard. Alright, we're probably closing in on the end of this session here with Karen home. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, my little nickname, each one of these planes seemed to have a nickname. One was King Arthur and one is the Killer Bee, and we all know they have nicknames all over the place, so it's only a matter of time before this one gets some very disrespectful nickname. But I've named it Wendy's Witch, and of course Strega is Italian for witch. So Wendy's Witch, kind of cool, kind of nice. But I'm sure Greenaway will have some other bimbo ridiculous name for it anyway. Anyway, just finishing up this logo, and as I said, my wife is home now. Looks like we're coming up on the end of this session here. Now I'm just lettering in here. I hope Debbie Borelli is watching. Is lettering in Karen, my love, for my wife, who I love dearly. Now listen, Jimmy, if you're listening to this, you want free brownie points, put your wife's name on and gold letter set. There you have it. That's the secret to a happy marriage. Yeah, tell me that isn't cute. Tell me that doesn't look... Karen, I love you so much. Anyway, she is a good wife, no doubt about that. Now I can check them for symmetry. See, I want them to be symmetrical. Okay, now I can put them back on the plane. I just want to clean up this area up here. I want to get the traditional semi-scale fuel caps, which I put on most of the planes here. Always seems to dress it up a little bit. We probably won't be able to do much more than that tonight. We're running out of time here. The wife is already home, and the party's coming to an end here. Anyway. Okay, now if you want to do gas caps, this is a good way to do them. What I've done is I marked and raised up. This has various circles. And I marked the spot on the template which just intercepts the point of the shield. I'm using this to go up against the side of the body. So when I take this and flip it over, all I have to do to get a perfectly symmetrical, get this one placed on the opposite side, flip it over and line up the point. I've also got layers of tape on here, both sides. Basically the idea here is, and I'll just check this before I do it, so that I can flip this over, I have tape on both sides. It keeps it away from the fuselage. It gives me a real good alignment. And believe me, if the gas caps are off even a little bit, it looks terrible. Now it's really difficult to get the center cap lined up. I'm putting a smaller circle inside a big one, and I'm really adjusting this real carefully. Now, easiest way is use a thinner pen on the inside. In case it's off, you can go around and make a little adjustment. Now I just want to get this template up. I got a little bit of a run on the ink over there. I want to get this template up just a little bit. Extra layers of tape just to get it up. This doesn't have raised edges. A couple extra layers of tape will get it up off the wing so we don't get any drooling in there. Now you can see we have them pretty well centered, equally apart. And the trick here is, let's see if I can get this on the macro lens, is when you get a line, now I had this a little bit off, is just with a thin pen, move it over just a little bit, the direction has to go, and retrace it. Now the lines will be the same thickness and it'll be perfectly centered. Now when you want to detail this, you want to get the rivet heads at 90 degrees. So you want to go 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Now you want to divide each one in half. Now you want to divide each one of them in half. This is really the easiest way to do a gas cap. And it comes out to be a pretty realistic fuel cap anyway. A real P51 fuel cap there. Now you can real carefully letter set this right in the center of that. Try to get it centered. If it's not, this is going to be a pain in the ass. Again, these come right off the Tom Lay letter set sheet, so they're real easy to put on. And of course we'll just do that to the other side too. Now I'm just putting in some final detailing, some little rivet heads around here. Again, all the rivet heads are done with a different size pen, so you don't have everything all look like it came right off of a, one pen. The more different thicknesses you can use, different size dots, different dot spacing, it all goes a long way toward making it more realistic. Now the egg-shaped pattern on this Helix, the egg shape is usually an access panel, so I've carefully put in Same way I located these, I located them off of the edge and with some kind of a reference front to back so that they're equally spaced. Now if you see they're equally spaced off the front, and I've referenced off the flap line forward to each one. That's why when you have these patterns, you just have to figure out what you're going to reference off, and everything in this part of the fuselage you want to make it, at least I do, as symmetrical as possible. Now we'll fill in the details on these access panels. Now whenever you're putting the rivet heads in, again, you divide everything in half. 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Try to steady this up. And just keep dividing each area in half. Otherwise you wind up at the end, you have two rivets too close together or too far apart. And just divide each one of these in half. And, you know, we're not making a scale model here. This is just to busy it up so it kind of looks semi-scale, I guess, or realistic or whatever. So, you know, we'll make each one different. The one on the flap, I'm just going through my letter sets to see which ones I have left over here, actually. But try to make each one a little different. We got the access up there, battery, water, and put something here. Again, I'll use up the letter sets that I have in inventory. Okay, now the party's over here. The wife has told me it's time to end this session. So to keep my marriage happy here, I'm going to put a little coat of clear on all the little spots. And we'll pick this up tomorrow. Just a nice little shot of clear on this, just to protect it. It's always a big help if you can get some extra clear on this. You're getting a little extra clear on all the letter sets. Thank God for that spray bench so we can get the smell out of here too. Well, that's it for today. Another good session. And we'll come back and try to get some more details on this. Well, just going to think about this now. Now, one of the things I do is I have my, let's shut this off now. I have my Reno Air Race book out here. And I'm just going to go through this tonight look through it and try to get some ideas for any other details, any other letter sets, anything I might want to put on here. This is just one of the things, you know, by looking at pictures you always wind up getting some kind of a little idea. Hey, Red Baron. Anyway, we'll do that tonight. Come back tomorrow and try to get either the rest of the ink, rest of the letter sets, rest of whatever on here. Look at all the Reno Air Race books. Go over and over them. Always a good idea. Go over all, see how many letter sets we have left. I'm getting buried in letter sets here. This is unbelievable. Buried in letter sets. George will probably come over tomorrow, do a little more work on Tsunami, big Tsunami. But a good session today, a good day. Now every morning when I start a little day of work, I try to plan out, get a look at what I did yesterday, get some ideas as to where I need a little more detailing, where I need some ink, or if I'm overdoing it. Now one of the nice things happened today is it's a little bit warmer out there today. It looks like we're going to be in a couple of days of warm weather, reasonably warm weather. Maybe able to get some spraying done, but that's one of the reasons I put the whole plane together yesterday. I wanted to get the overview. And again, this is the kind of thing, it just takes, I don't know, it takes me a lot of time anyway, just looking at the whole thing and saying, yeah, gee, that looks a little busy there, and it's here, just trying to figure out exactly what it is I want to do. And I'm being real careful. I don't want to make this too busy. I don't want to turn it into, you know, a letter set sheet, but I want to have as much detail as possible and make it as unusual as possible. I don't want it to be a copy of anybody else's plane. I want it to kind of be original. So without further ado, let me get out all the ink stuff and the letter set pens and go to work. Now I'm trying to get these on symmetrical, these silver leaf letter set dots. These were the custom ones I made for the Cardinal Sin. And again, I got a couple of little detail things left over that I can use. And I'm going back and forth to see where it's too busy and where it's busy enough. Basically a thing of trying to make it symmetrical more than anything else. Get the extra one. They always seem to stick when you don't want them to stick. Again, using the same method of lining up, picking up alignment points here so that I get a symmetrical set of circles. Again, what's hard here is to try to make it busy without making it too busy. And without trying to make it a carbon copy of somebody else's plane. That's the other problem. Now some of the details, it's a lot easier just to get the flap or elevator or whatever off. Just get it right off. Anytime you're working up against the fuselage, of course, it's easier just to pull a flap or elevator off. See, what's easy with the parts off, it's a lot easier to get the thing symmetrical. You can use one to measure the other one. Just make sure you have enough tape underneath the template so you don't get those messy ink blotches. Now this is a common problem I have anyway. Even after cleaning this up, sometimes when an ink line dries there's some little imperfections in it, so I have to go back over it. And what I try to do is be real careful about lining it up and just use the next size thicker pen. Just get it carefully lined up, go right over the other ink line with a thicker pen. That kind of hides the imperfection. Now when you're working on a rudder, a good way to hold a rudder, because you have this post here, look at this, President Nixon calling. Can't believe this. You can't believe it, President Nixon never gets tired of calling me. Doesn't realize I have to play with my toy planes here. Anyway, I got some details and I wanted to show this was a good way of holding it, because in the past I've tried to hold it this way and forget about it. This is a nice little trick. If you can hold your little parts on a roll of tape, that's real nice. Another thing when you're inking, it's a problem, is if you don't have a good way of holding an elevator or a flap, you really can do it on a glass table better than on a pad, because this tends to move up and down. So anyway, I did get this little guy decorated. Now he's ready to go. And I'm just going to one by one take the little pieces off the plane and see how much detail I want to add to it. See, again, I just like to go back and see, is this getting too busy? Busy enough? You know, just the overall look of how this is coming out. Again, this just takes I just got to go back and do it over and over and over again to get it the way you like it. Now I want to put a little extra tape on this template and make a little template for doing trim tabs. One of the little details I like to have, if I possibly can, on this plane. Little trim tabs on each of the surfaces. Makes it look a little more realistic anyway. You want to have at least 3 or 4 layers of tape, because we're going to be going around some curves in the surfaces. So whenever you're going to go around a curve, you want to have 4 or 5 layers of masking tape on here. You want more than the average amount anyway. Now the trick is to try to get around the edges here with a nice neat line. Try to go as far down as you can, and when you do the other side, bring the line up. Give it a couple seconds to dry, because the minute you move that template, Okay, now you can see how nice that wrapped right around. And of course use a reference line for this edge so that they're pretty much equal. Now let's see how that looks. Does it look like a good match? Yeah. Okay, so then again, just repeat it on the other side. Now what I'm referencing off, the end of this hinge pocket is the end of the trim tab. And I'm referencing right off of the trim line here. Let's see if we have this accurate. Try to wrap it right around the surface. This way you can pick up the other side as easy as you possibly can. Why make it hard? Pull a pen right around the edge. Now I can see the reference lines here as I've come around. Now I can line this up with the trim, line this up with the reference line, and this way you get the overall like a mirror image in one stroke of the pen. And get an idea of if we like it or if we want to change it right now. So we have the whole back here, the trim tabs done, and of course now just go up and do the flaps. Again, I'm referencing off the trim line and off one of the hinges. Just carry that ink line right around the edge of the flap. Now I got to carefully pick up that line. It's a lot harder to see where you are with the red. The white is a lot easier to do. Okay, I want to pick the line up if I can and come right up forward. That's always the most difficult part, is getting the lines to wrap around the edge of the flaps. Now, definitely one of the kings of ink, obviously, Steve Busso, another good, real good guy when you need information on ink. Mike Rogers is really a patient guy as far as getting ink on. And I'm not so good. You just get rid of that ink and we'll wait till it dries and ink it over. Okay, when you get a boo-boo, you just try to go right back over that. Never see that. Now here's one of the things, I'm trying to do this on a macro lens, I don't know if it's going to be successful, is you got a line that just comes out just a little too far here. So I let it dry and just take a brand new X-Acto knife and just cut that corner even. That's a good way to get nice even corners. Let it dry and then just cut it with a razor blade or a knife. Now it really doesn't want to stick here, so I'm just going back over and over this line. I'm sure there's a fingerprint there, a pizza print, so to speak. Now what I did, I loaded up a pen, even a thicker pen than what I had, so I can cover up some of these mistakes. Now I'll take the thinner pen and go back over it. Just grind away at it till I get a nice neat ink line. I noticed that ink line is a lot thicker. That's done with a number 80. Was it an 80? Yeah, a number 80 pen. I'm going to try to get some thick ink lines on here too. Now again, the whole idea is to get some variety in the thickness of the lines so that as you stand back or get closer, some of them come into focus. And of course, when you're doing thick lines, you need a little extra time for them to dry, always. Again, I'm trying to intersperse some of the dark lines. These are the thick number 80 lines in between some of the thinner lines. Now you can see the two thicknesses of the lines, how it accents. One accents the other. Now I'm going to do the minimum on the bottom. I'm not going to do as much as on the top. I just want to get some on here so that when they flip it over there's some ink on the bottom. Again, a minimum though, minimum. Well, we don't have enough real time to do much else today, so what I want to do is get a coat of clear on everything that I've got the letter sets and lines on now. I'll get a coat of spray on, let that dry, and we'll pick this up tomorrow. Now here's some of before we put this away for the day, here's just some of the things I've picked up here that may be of some help to you. See what happened as I was releasing these letter sets, these are Tom Lay's, the ink on here gets on your fingers. And now I've seen, now that I'm looking at this real close, I see some smudges on here that I'm going to take off. The smudges come right off with alcohol. But what you might want to do here, and this is a good idea, if you're going to use a pen, and this is like a little update on what I thought was the latest latest and greatest technology, is take a pen that's run out of ink already to use as your little press on it. Of course, I was using this from time to time. The other thing too, I'm going to take all my pens. I don't know, when I'm going to ink again. It may be a day, maybe a week, who knows. But I'll make sure I get them writing real nice and then put the cap on, put them in storage. I also want to go through all of these letter sets and sort them out by which is which. You can see just about how many Tom Lays I got. Just sort them out by which is which is which is which. Put them all away, all the gold, all the silver, everything. Get them organized. Put that away for now. And hope that next time we use them, they'll all be ready to go. Now, believe it or not, it's reasonable outside. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mix up some clear. And I want to do a little test on these parts. I can get a coat of clear on these today. And what I'm going to try to do is just go over all the stripes so I can build up some extra clear around the stripes and around the edges. And of course over all the little spots where we have letter set. Now you can see the edges here. So I'm going to just concentrate. What I did, after I get the line sprayed, I sprayed the whole surface. And I want to get, this will give me one coat of clear on the whole surface and a second coat right over where all the ridges in the paint are. What this does too, it gives you a good chance to get the paint consistency just right. It's about 50 degrees out there now, so I'm going to try to get as much of the clear on this as I can today. Again, I want to bury all the lines in double clear, all the letter sets. Give it some time to dry and maybe even get a second coat on it today. Alright, here's the other one. I just added just a little bit of thinner to the paint, try to thin it out just a little bit. Just the first coat of clear on a rudder. Of course, I'm going to take all the little parts off now one by one, take them outside and shoot them. So what I did, I turned the heat on here. Got the heating vent blowing on these parts. Kind of get this drying up here, I hope. And we still have the mainframe to do. Now what I'll probably do, I'll do the mainframe right in the shop here because I want to pick away at where the letter sets are. I want to be real careful, and it's hard to do that outside with the wind blowing. Now the first thing here, I want to go over all the new ink. Difficult outside. I could do this outside if the wind wasn't blowing so hard. I can actually go over the shields. Anything that has ink on it. I want to go over this edge. Anywhere there's a paint edge, just to build up the edge. Again, I'm not spraying the whole plane, just the areas where we have ink. You can even do the edge of the canopy while we have it here. Put some extra on the canopy. Again, if you're doing a canopy, make sure there's not a lot of thinner in the paint and definitely no high gloss. That sucker will melt. Now you'll see how that ruins your whole day in a hurry. Going over all the paint lines, all the ink. Then of course I'll wait for this to dry, flip it over and do the bottom. You only can't do both sides at once here. All the paint edges. Now after this we'll mix up our material for doing the clear. Any ink, any Letrasix. But all our parts are drying up real nice here. I flipped this over, got the bottom painted. Again, only on the edges. I obviously still have to do the lettering, and this just gives me a little bit ahead on it. Just one more use for our bench. That bench just sucks the fumes out of here in a matter of 5 minutes. It's just great. Anyway, we're going to let this dry overnight now. We'll pick this up, well, whenever we can. Work is calling, baby. Work is calling. Doing a little test fit here on Big Tsunami. Laying them out. We're going to get the plans off the table. A momentous moment. Tsunami goes together. The body becomes a body. Now what we're doing, we're putting a center line. This is a good idea even if you're building a stunter. We got a center line on every fuse former. Now we're going to line all the center lines up with one of the lines on the table, and then just bend the body sides around it. Try to maintain some real straightness, I guess is the right word here. What is the right word, George? Cabbage patch.
Non-banana shape.
No banana shape. No bananas.
That's we got no bananas.
Now what I did, and this is a good thing, you can see how big this is relative to George. We worked off this center line, put a center line on all the fuse formers, and you can see they're all running down that center line, and then glued wood blocks to the table on both sides, and one by one pressed in each former using Elmer's glue. That gives us a little time to get it all the twists and bows and everything out, and it is absolutely perfect. Now you could use this for a stunt ship. This is so nice. Now we'll let that dry overnight. Look at the size of this. I just love this. And the wing. I mean, this is the wing, the dominant pattern master airfoil here. Big Tsunami. All right, let it dry overnight. Now I got a couple interesting pictures here. Just take a look at this picture and get this idea in your mind. I'm going to read this real quick, one paragraph. This is from James Mills of Springfield, Missouri. I'm sending you a picture of my Mustang after it's underlined, the last flight. You can see the results for yourself. It's a good example of what can happen when you don't ask enough questions. I didn't have the lead outs wrapped correctly on the belt crank. He doesn't say if he used solids or braideds, but braideds, this is generally the result of incorrectly wrapped braideds. The down cable snapped and it cost me the plane. If I'd asked more questions about how to do it, I'd probably still have the plane. Well, James, I appreciate the fact that you're sharing it with us. And believe me, I have told people over and over and over again, if you're going to use braided lead outs, you must in some way improvise and get them that they don't wear at the belt crank. That's always what happens. Solid lead outs don't do that. They're usually a little more reliable. Thanks, James, by the way. Now this is from Bob Martens, and I think this is worth reading on the video. This is something, now remember I asked for anybody had some ideas about how to make the inking a little bit better. I'm going to read this real quick. Cleanliness, this again is from Bob Martens, a professional draftsman. Cleanliness of equipment, pens, is absolutely critical. Clean reservoirs and pen tips in lukewarm running water and rinse in isopropyl alcohol. Well, we don't do that, Bob. And I tell you, that's probably why I'm having half of the problems I have. Clean pens and reservoir each time reservoirs, every time ink is refilled. Do not ever store pens with ink in them. Never, never, not even overnight. Well, I do that, and believe me, that's probably half of the problem. Use freshest ink you can. I have ink that's 6 years old, probably. Clean the work surface, sanded, and paint with 1200 paper. I've been doing that. Hold pens nearly vertical. I've been trying to do that. Use ink risers on all drafting. Yeah, okay, that's that 1/8" tape thing. To keep the template up off so ink doesn't run underneath. Keep ink from running underneath, trailing and straight edge. Use talc or pounce as an aid to getting the ink adhere to stubborn surfaces. Well, everything is a stubborn surface around here. This dissertation should help out. It says when replacing pen tips on pens, either Konar or Stedlatter, both of which we have, buy jewel-tipped replacements. Much more expensive, but really high quality and durable. Well, I think the ones Joe supplied me for nothing. Can't really go get my money back here. Anyway, he's showing what happens is the pen tip wears to a radius. It wears after use, and I'm sure that the use we give it, it wears even quicker than normal. Sapphire, very hard and very durable. Okay, now, I want to make a point here, and I guess this is as good as any time to do it. Now, I guess this is easiest to say right now. I want to make sure I don't leave this to somebody's misunderstanding. As everybody that's been watching the videos probably knows, from time to time I've referred to Walt Prey and his gold leaf technology, and he's been gracious enough to send that along to me and to share with everybody. He has asked me in a letter that I received today, and he was working on making a template for the Strega lettering, of course, not to share that with people. He feels that that's the way he earns his living, and he'd rather not share it. So what it does, it gives me an opportunity to try to do it my own way, and what I've decided to do is I'm going to try to lay out the lettering by hand, and I'm going to try to do pretty much the way we did the emblem on the nose with making plywood letters. And again, it'll give me a chance to try my hand at it. Walt is a professional letterer, and I can understand his point of view, and I respect him for it. And I certainly, absolutely, I don't want anybody to misunderstand this and think like I'm not appreciative of what he's already helped us with. He's helped Midgley, he's helped me, he's probably helped many people, and he's certainly at the top of his field in every way. But again, I have to experiment this lettering thing out, and maybe I won't be able to get the lettering the way I envision it. But again, that's part of the challenge. It's part of the thrill of doing this, is always trying new ways, trying things that nobody's tried before. So we will be doing the lettering in a different way. But here's the point, and this is one of the points I've always tried to make with people. We're building this big Tsunami for George. George isn't here yet. He's coming over later. And we're trying to use stunt ship technology to build a 1/4 scale, 6.5 or whatever foot span this thing is, ship. And a lot of the technology is interchangeable. Now, Bob Hunt has mentioned that in his column many times, crossover technology, and it's a good, valid point. And what we have here is valid technology that works for us, that's letting us engineer up this big RC plane. And I actually look forward to seeing this thing fly someday. So it's kind of an adventure, and we're going to share a little bit of it from time to time. With the lettering now, I'm going to back up. It's a very nice day for painting out there today, so I'm going to mix up some more clear and get all my parts. And this is another good point. Time management is to use the time that's available. And I have some time today. I can get another coat of clear, 2 or 3 coats over all the edges, and then a whole wet coat over everything on all the little surfaces, cowling, rudder, tip weight box, landing gear doors. So that'll leave me with just the mainframe to work on, and that'll free up some time for me next week. So if you can plan your little jobs out and you can pick up some of these ideas that I've done, yeah, I hope it'll save you time and ultimately mean that you'll have more fun building, or be able to build more, or be able to build faster or better or quicker or cheaper, or in some way improve it. Again, I'm going to have to give some thought to exactly how I want to do this lettering. I want to look through my Reno Air Race books. I want to come up with the lettering, the look that I want, which I had to do on the Griffin and I had to do on the Red Baron, pretty much copy it by eye. Again, I try to make each one different, so we have a lot of these different ways of doing things on the video. And since we haven't done it yet, I can't see if it's going to be successful or not. I'll leave that up to you. But we will be going on with that. First thing today, though, because we want to take advantage. We're in the middle of the winter. This is of February. We're right in the middle of it, of when it's ice storms and snow, and we have a day that's 50 degrees, so we want to try to get some of that clear dope on the plane today. At least before George gets here. Now these are the parts. This is what we painted yesterday, and I try to look at it. Here's a couple of tips that'll help you with your clear. When you put the first coat of clear over all the little stripes, you want to put a relatively dry coat. You don't want a lot of thinner, excuse me, in there, because if you get this too thin, the stripes are going to kind of blur. You'll melt the electrosets. The ink lines will kind of fade. They'll start walking down the road like a crooked railroad track. So the first thing I always do, I take a look at what I sprayed the day before, make sure it's completely dry. Make sure you haven't gone in and melted all the lines. But for sure, now that I have a coat on top of the ink lines, now I can put on a much, much thicker coat. That first coat should be dry. Now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of thinner to that mix of paint. I mixed up 3 little jars of paint, medium, thick, and thin. I'm going to take the medium jar, one that has a little more thinner, and try to get a nice wet coat on all the surfaces. And I'll try to do that, and again, take advantage of a 50-degree day in February. Try to get that on so that maybe tomorrow or the 3rd day from now, I can start to wet sand this out, and I can get all my little parts done. Now that's a big help because it gets all my paint mixed, gets me in the right mood, or whatever, gets my hands wet and everything, where I'm ready to spray, and leave the main frame for last. And needless to say, we have to do the Strega lettering yet. It also lets me that I can get the bottom done first and get everything just perfect before I give that the top final coats of clear. So let me get started, let me get the mixing and get some of this clear on today. Now with the macro lens, I want to show how these edges, and you see you can actually catch your fingernail on the edge here. Another good tip, never sand this with only 1 or 2 coats of clear on. Get plenty of clear on top before you sand it. If you start sanding this now, you'll break these edges down, the thinner will get in there, and you'll have Ripple City. Always get at least 2/3 of the clear on the plane and many extra coats over the lines. In other words, out here you can wind up with 1 or 2 coats of clear, 1 or 2 coats of clear, but here you want 15. Getting all that clear over the lines, the electrosets, and the edges. Most important thing to keeping it light, and that's the part of this that people seem to have the most trouble with, is how to get this so you don't wind up putting a gallon of light coat on here. We're going to put 2 quarts and 2 quarts of thinner to start with, and if we run out of clear, the bottom's going to be real thin, but we're not going to go putting on that 3rd and 4th coat of clear like a lot of people do. 2 coats, 2 quarts unthinned, 2 quarts of thinner, it's a gallon of mixture, and that's the most you ever put on a stunt ship, and obviously a lot less for a smaller plane. This is a full-size plane. Now this has got 1 coat of clear on the cowling. Again, what I'm going to try to do, now see I want to move this, I have my little pinchers, to the other side so I can get clear down and in it. Plenty on the inside. The cowling, really, you're not trying to make the world's lightest cowling. I'm going to get plenty of clear on here, and maybe even get a coat of Imron or epoxy on the top of it, because this is usually the part of the plane that takes the most beating, right behind the motors where the raw fuel be spitting out from time to time. Now I've laid out all the stuff on the table. Mainly what I want to see is just how much I have over these, and these are just ink lines. I want to make sure I have enough clear over these. Now a couple of spots I see where the wood was soft, I've got little dents in here. So when I go back and do the clear, I want to kind of puddle a little extra clear in there if I possibly can. Again, couple of tips that'll save you some aggravation. Never put on 4 or 5 coats of dope one right after another. You just trap thinner in there. Give each coat a good, maybe even a day to dry. So the most I'll hope to get on here is maybe 1 coat this morning and 1 coat tonight just before I go to bed. But don't blow on a whole quart of clear on a plane and then hope it'll all dry. You'll trap thinner in there. It'll be nothing but a disaster. You're just going to add extra weight. Now I'm putting in roughly a teaspoon, this is a quart, just a little bit into the, little bit of Flexol in here. I've made this material, and this is what I'm going to use on the rest of the surfaces, a little bit thicker than I normally would. This is a quart container, and I've made this probably just roughly 60% thinner. The idea being here is I want to be able to add thinner. Now usually you can see by just how thick it is and how the bubbles are. This is going to be a little bit on the thick side. I want to try to spray this roughly 25 pounds. Again, I've had the 3 jars, 1 medium, 1 thick, 1 thin. And what I want to do, I'm going to add a little bit more. Before I even start this, I know this is going to need some more thinner. Nothing but 3608S thinner. That's probably going to be about right. And again, we have a really nice day. It's an unbelievable thing that we have this day for painting. So, okay, we'll load up the gun. Now, once I load up the gun, the trick here is I want to go outside, run a little test on my tip weight box and on all the little parts, and then make a decision, is this paint too thick or too thin? Well, if it's too thick, I can add some thinner. If it's too thin, hey, I can come back and add some, paint and thinner just to get the mixture just about right. I'd like not to change the pressure. I'd like to spray this at 25 pounds today. I want to make sure, number 2, and I just went over all this stuff up at Scott Smith's house on that spraying seminar. I have a pen, a pin. Always clear the back of the breather hole here. And if the gun starts to spit for any reason, clean the tip. Let it soak in thinner or acetone for 10-15 minutes. Have a cup of coffee and come back to it. Okay, we'll be ready to do our little test on the parts here. Hey, you can still we still have we still have snow on the ground, but it's basically a real nice warm day. So we're going to try to pick the warmest spot of the day. It's around 12 o'clock. Try to get this guy some of the clear sprayed on him. Number 1, I always try to candle it against the sun. Again, some of that information is on the video we did by Scott Smith's, the spraying seminar. You might want to check that out. Cowling is a good place to run a test because you don't really care if you get a little extra paint on here. Let's get real, almost every plane needs nose weight. And paint is a better nose weight than lead. At least it looks prettier. Or a big heavy flywheel. Now this is a pretty decent amount of paint I'm putting on here because it is such a nice day. You just can't believe what a nice day this is. Let's see if we can see this. I don't know if we're going to be able to see this. Roughly what the gloss is on this. Looks like we have the paint mixture real good. Of course, I want to get the edges, double and triple coats on the edges. You just can get an idea maybe here of what the spray pattern looks like. We're real close to having this right. Any more thinner and we'd liable to get a run. Any thicker than this and we just have overspray everywhere. Always coat the edges. See if we can see this. Hard to do this when you're the only one-man band here. Again, a tip weight box is something we don't care if we have a couple extra coats of paint. Not trying to make a light tip weight box cover, that's for sure. Some idea of how that looks. Again, always practice on the little parts till you have your technique down pat. Best advice I can give. Practice on the little parts. Notice I'm spraying everything except the corner. Then I'll hold it by the little rod sticking out where the horn would go. Now I want to take my finger away. My finger up on the edge here if I can. A little bit extra on those nose steps. And last thing, right down the edge. Main thing is to get extra paint right over these edges. Really don't care at this time what we get over the white and red. Just over the edges. But if the paint's too thin, you'll melt those edges. That's another thing. It's got to be relatively thick at this point in time. Main thing to get paint on are the edges. Maybe even a little bit extra on the ink. Those edges that you really want to get as much paint as possible at this point in time. Over that Letraset job out there, over that ink. And the last thing, get that area where we actually we're holding it. Again, I'm trying to get a little extra on these letter sets. Then the tricky part, of course, reverse your hands. This is where you usually wind up dropping the damn thing. I'm going to do everything but the wing. Don't get the idea you have to put all the clear on at one time. Once you get one section of a plane finished, you can start putting the clear on. This way, this can be drying up while we're doing the lettering. If nothing else, we get a little head start on letting this dope dry out. This color looks great out in the sun, by the way. This is really the first time I've had it out in the sun like this. Now it looks like the gun is starting to spit. I don't know if you can see this. The gun looks like it may be starting to spit. So when I go to refill it up, I'll let the tip soak and thin it for a little while I'm loading the gun. First I'll use up the paint though. It's not really a critical thing at this point. This is all going to get sanded out anyway. We don't really care about this. Again, if you have a finishing friend, this would be a good time to use it. I don't really like it because I've seen planes bend the mount and I've seen planes fall off the finishing friend. That's another thing. And break the whole nose. So. But then I guess people have seen me drop planes. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Use whatever you're most comfortable with. Extra on the edges, for sure. Now I guess we could spray right up to the back of the wing. Remember, all this letter set and everything has a coat of clear already on it, so we're a little bit ahead of the game. Now what I'll do when I get to the very end of this, I'll take it back inside and hang it up by the lead outs if I have to get the nose. Now I can get over all the ink. All I want to do right now is get over the ink. I don't know how good this footage is coming out. It is really a bright day out here. Now the idea here is this can all be drying up while I'm doing the lettering. Back out on this a little bit. I could start to build up the clear on the nose too here at this point in time. This gold eagle on the nose here really looks kind of nice. Kind of happy the way that looks. The color red really looks good. Again, this is Midgley provided the paint. Leading edge always takes a beating. Tip. Wouldn't hurt to put a little bit extra on a top block, that's for sure. I know this is kind of a long thing, but I think if you see just how many coats of paint, if you see this firsthand, you can actually get on the trim before you actually even put the clear on the airplane. This is all done before we actually clear the airplane. This is just the spots that I want to get little bits of extra paint on. Get any scoops. Okay, maybe we'll get out here later tonight, just before dark. Get another coat. Always extra on the Letrosets. But again, you don't want to make it so wet that you either melt the canopy or melt the Letroset. Now what I want to do, before it gets dark, I want to get one more coat on this. So what I'm doing, I'm putting in the rest of the mixture that was thin. This was the thinnest of the mixtures. And I'm going to add just a little bit of thinner. I want to make sure that each coat goes on a little bit thinner than the one before it. This is not a good top. Now when I take this out, again, and I won't do this on camera, this is just getting redundant. You've seen enough spraying to choke a horse here. But the next thing is, if it gets too thin, if you put the first coat on too thin, what happens is you're going to melt the ink lines. But each successive coat you could put a little more, a little more, a little more, till the very last coat you spray in water. And each time you do cut the pressure back. Now I'm going to cut the pressure back probably to about 20 pounds now, and try to get a nice, thin, smooth, light coat on there. Again, each coat a little more thinner. Start thick and work your way thin. It'll just save you when it comes time to do the sanding too. Now this is sitting here, and I'll let this sit a couple of days now. It has one thick coat and one real thin coat. There's no point in just putting it over and over and over on the video here. You really could get bored. In fact, get bored just as it is. I got the main frame up there. The next thing is going to be the lettering. I really have to work out exactly how I want to do the lettering. I want to sketch it out, cut the plywood letters out. And again, in fact, we're getting near the end of the video. Maybe we won't even start this till the next video, so we have all the lettering on one video. But it's just an idea. Just give you an idea of how to get the clear on. Now this is the biggest single thing that people do is right now they put too much paint on the plane. The idea now is how to get it on in thinner and thinner coats, get extra on all the lines, so that on the bare spots of the plane you don't have a ton of paint. You don't wind up with that 80-ounce finish. Now we used a couple of tricks today working with George here. We got the rudder made up, and of course that is right off the scale plans. Also another thing we did the nose like a stunt ship, and we used, this might be a good trick we can use someday on one of the stunt ships. We used toothpicks to go right into the plywood. We glued the nose ring on, and the nose ring, notice only half of it sticks out in front, the other half goes inside. That's a trick we can use on future stunt ships, so we're definitely learning about some new construction techniques here, definitely. And this is going to be one fun plane to fly. I can't wait to bring this to the stunt forum. This should really be a lot of fun. Now I went through all my Reno Air Race books, and I've got the, this is, I hope, going to be sufficient for laying out the lettering. And what I'm going to do is over the weekend, then I can do it upstairs. I don't even have to do it in the shop. I'm just going to try to duplicate this lettering right here as best I can in the size that'll fit the plane. And I'm going to try to come up with my own numbers. Then what I'm going to do, and this is the plan, this is not the reality of this yet, I'm going to do the same thing I did on the nose, is cut this whole thing out of maybe 30-second plywood and run a little test just to see if I'm real happy with it. By the way, one of the things I can do is lay this out in ink on the plane itself before I ever do the gold, and then try to get the variegated gold leaf in there. This looks like it's gold leaf, I don't know, maybe gold paint. But this is just one of the things I'm going to work on over the weekend. I won't videotape it because obviously it's going to consume a lot of hours. But having even just one picture like this is enough for a concept that I can basically, you know, just like I did the Griffin, lay out my own lettering. And it looks like that's going to be the plan of choice as of right now. Now this lettering here, and of course this was all done from my mind's eye. This is one of the ones that I must have spent 20 or 30 hours laying that out. I don't even know. Just to go over a few of the options. Now I know everybody's not going to do, maybe nobody's going to do gold leaf lettering. So if you just get some of the concept ideas, we have the Tsunami Lettering, and that's on video. Relatively easy to do with all the airbrush work. The Red Baron lettering, which was super difficult, and I did that from photo enlargements that Mike Haravich made for me. The tweener lettering, which is a metal flake gold, and we have that on video, so that's just gives you a lot of choices. If you're into this and it's time to do some lettering, this will just give you some ideas, some choices. Look through some magazines, get some ideas. That's the next step on this. In fact, we're at the end of this video. I hate to say it, but we are at the end of the video, and I'm going to pick up the lettering, I guess, with the once I get the concept drawings done, which will be soon, I hope. I'll try to do them over the weekend, and we'll pick this up with the next tape, see how many good lettering ideas we can come up with. Now just in closing here, and this is, again, we're at the end of the tape, I just really want to say this over and over again. I've dedicated, of course, old Strega over here. George doesn't even know it, but I have dedicated Strega to George as a little kind of a tribute to how much help he's been in my life and how many things he's taught me about sheetrock work and tile. Like John DeTavio, he deserves, and Harold Price, some major credit for helping me. But there's something I've taught myself in building this Tsunami, and it's something maybe or maybe not isn't appropriate here, as I've never really gotten into building this size or girth of aeroplane. And you can see from looking at Jimmy's plane in the back how big this thing really is. But we all learning, and George and I are learning this, going down the ropes together. And I think a year from now, 8 months from now, who knows how many months, we're really going to look back at this time and pioneering our way through this thing. And we're both running into problems constantly, but we're enjoying doing it together. And like the Monday night classes, I think we all learn from each other, and that's part of the beauty of this event. There's so much to learn. Believe me when I tell you, you never really know it all. You never really can hope to know. Even a lot is hard to do. But this has added a new dimension to my life. And just one quick story. I was watching a show the other night about Michelangelo. I'm just thinking about this as we look at Tsunami. And this is the truth, that Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci were not the best of friends. In fact, they hated each other. They were rivals. And Leonardo da Vinci called Michelangelo pretty much a crude son of a bitch. And he said he walked around like a baker with dust all over him because he was a sculptor. And Michelangelo, hearing that he had been insulted, went out and painted the Sistine Chapel and just blew Leonardo away. And one of the comments Leonardo made, and this is the funniest thing, it's appropriate right here and right now, one of the comments he made was Michelangelo was so talented that his sculpting and painting might not be, you might not even be able to decide which was his most impressive talent. And like George Ventrini, who really is a master of so many arts and crafts, paintings, trains, whatever, I think this is going to be, just like Leonardo, this is going to be one of the things he's going to really enjoy in the years to come. So, George, we love you. It's all enough said. See you on the next tape. Tsunami lives.